How do you craft a claim and counterclaim for an argumentative literary essay? In this lesson, you will learn how to craft a claim and counterclaim by creating a brainstorming chart. So here's our prompt. After reading W.E.B. Du Bois' work, The Souls of Black Folk of Our Spiritual Strivings, write an essay in which you support or refute the author's central claim that African Americans only need freedom, political power, and education to gain their rightful place in American society. Use sufficient evidence from the text to support your discussion. So this lesson is going to ask us to reread and analyze our text before we really start to plan out the paper. And that goes along with the writing process. First, you read closely and analyze. Then you're going to generate and plan. Then you draft and revise. And finally, you're ready to edit and publish. So in this lesson, we're going to reread and analyze our text. And that's something we need to do before we generate and plan. Now, a mistake some writers make is just to jump right in, create an outline, and start writing. But it's important for us to develop our position first. The Souls of Black Folk of Our Spiritual Strivings is the first chapter of W.B. Du Bois' seminal work. It's an informational text, which means that it is nonfiction, and it's also argumentative, in the sense that Du Bois is trying to convince his audience of his position. So he outlines the history of the struggle of the African Americans, and he presents his claims for the future of African Americans. So in this lesson, first we're going to look for where the text makes a claim. Then we're going to ask, what are the best reasons to support that claim? Then we're going to ask, what are the best reasons to disagree with that claim? And finally, we're going to choose the strongest position. So let's recall the central claim that Du Bois makes. Remember that the problems that he outlined were the ideals of freedom, political power, and education have dimmed, so they're going away. His solution was that they need to be enacted all together in order for African Americans to have all of them, or for progress. Why? Because this is a sense of human brotherhood. America will give the example of a love of freedom, stories, and simple faith from African Americans, and this will make the nation stronger. So remember that we put our claim together, and we said Du Bois claims that African Americans need freedom, political power, and education to achieve the ideal of human brotherhood. So let's create a brainstorming chart, and here is just an abbreviated version of our claim so that we can keep it in mind as we work, that African Americans need only freedom, political power, and education. Then I'm going to ask, what are the reasons to support this? Well, these are human rights. That's one reason. What other reasons could we use or come up with that we could support this? That they only need freedom, political power, and education. What about these are the ideals of the American Republic, right? So everyone is supposed to be guaranteed freedom and the right to vote, political power, and to have an education in America. So that should be extended to everyone. Thinking like freedom and voting didn't work alone. So they African Americans, they gave them freedom, they gave them the right to vote, and then it didn't work. Like everything was not solved. So Du Bois, suggests that education was necessary. All right. So what are the reasons to disagree? Why could we disagree with this? And I think that a good reason is to look at this word only. Are these the only things that African Americans needed? They just needed freedom and the right to vote and education? I would say no. What about racism and other problems with equality in society, racial equality and social equality? These things alone are not the only things that African Americans need. So then I have to kind of weigh which side when I'm picking a side. I'm like, which one is stronger? I I choose one side in this case, and I'm going to choose the refutation, which means to disagree with the prompt. Dubois makes an excellent point. African Americans do need freedom, they do need political power, the right to vote, and education, but I don't think these are the only things that they need, and I don't think that these ideals will solve the problems of racism. And because Dubois puts such an emphasis on that in his writing, talking about the problems of racism, that I think that the best side to go with is refutation. But I mean, you could do either side. Each side has a worthy point. But I think the refutation is just a little stronger in this case, and it's going to become my central claim in the essay. But I have already developed my counterclaims. I've already considered the other side. So I know that my argument is going to be strong and valid because I have looked at both sides equally. So I'm going to just put it together down in words. Dubois does not offer any solutions for the problems he describes: racism, hate, and the damage done by slavery. And in my paper, I'm going to explain why freedom and the right to vote and education will not solve these problems. So in the writing process, we read closely and analyzed. We've developed our claims and counterclaims. So I think that the next part would be to generate and plan. In this lesson, you looked for where the text made a claim. You asked, what are the best reasons to support that claim? We asked, what are the best reasons to disagree with that claim? And finally, we chose the strongest position. In this lesson, you have learned to craft a claim and counterclaim by creating a brainstorming chart.